Look, you don't have to be some kind of fringe conspiracy theorist to see what's happening in this country. All it really takes is opening your eyes, flip on the news any given night, scroll through the headlines on your phone, or just take a walk through a major downtown area after dark. You'll see it. Being safe in America right now, it's not just about putting a deadbolt on your door or avoiding the bad part of town. The threat profile has changed. In the world we live in today, one of the single most responsible decisions you can make for yourself and for your family is to lawfully carry a firearm. Period. I've been on this soapbox for a long time, folks. And for me, this has zero to do with politics. It's not about scoring debate points on social media. It's about reality. Anytime you walk out that front door, whether you're grabbing gas, picking up groceries, or just taking a quiet hike, you should be armed. In my personal opinion, nobody should leave the house without their sidearm. But at an absolute bare minimum, there are 5 specific situations in this country right now where you should never, ever be caught unarmed. These aren't just higher risk environments. These are powder kegs where one wrong move, by one wrong person, can turn a totally normal day into a fight for your life. Number 1. Major metropolitan centers. All right, let's kick this off with the most obvious one. America's major metropolitan centers. It doesn't matter which one you point to. Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, you name it. They are all wrestling with a tidal wave of violent crime. And I'm not talking about somebody pocketing a candy bar. I'm talking about organized, brazen smash-and-grab robberies in broad daylight, armed carjackings at gas pumps and red lights, random brutal assaults at bus stops, commuters getting attacked or worse on their way home from the office. We have all seen the footage. Somebody's just trying to get home from work, and they end up in the hospital or the morgue. Folks are getting ambushed at intersections, held up at ATMs, even getting into shootouts over minor traffic disagreements. These are not isolated fluke incidents. They are part of a much larger, disturbing trend, a trend that, frankly, a lot of folks in charge don't want to admit is happening. Because admitting it means confessing that their policies have failed and that our cities have become fundamentally dangerous. Now sure, you'll hear some politicians brag that their homicide numbers dropped a few percentage points last year. But let's be real. That doesn't mean life on the street got any safer. It just means the violence changed its shape. Maybe there are slightly fewer murders, but now armed robberies are through the roof. Maybe fewer shootings, but aggravated assaults are skyrocketing. Either way, you don't feel any safer when you're out at 8 p.m. with your family, and you suddenly find yourself grabbing your kids and crossing the street just because a group of strangers is heading your way. That's not a feeling. That's a rational threat assessment. And here's the real kicker. The very cities that are drowning in this violent crime are almost always the exact same ones making it nearly impossible for good, law-abiding people to legally defend themselves. In a place like California, you're buried under a mountain of bureaucratic red tape just to exercise a constitutional right. In New York, they've effectively declared half the state a so-called sensitive location, turning you into a felon for just walking around. This leaves you, the responsible citizen, with 2 terrible choices. 1. Become a criminal yourself by ignoring unconstitutional laws. Or 2. Be defenseless and just trust the police to show up in time. And as we've all seen, that's a bad bet. Departments are critically short-staffed. Officers are overworked, demoralized, and often hamstrung by politics. They simply cannot cover every corner. And even when they do get the call, they are almost always minutes too late. So here is the hard truth. In places like this, the real danger isn't just the criminal element. It's the framework of laws that intentionally disarms the law-abiding. A thug who's about to carjack you doesn't give a damn about a carry permit or a gun-free zone sign. But you, the honest American, are the one left defenseless by those signs. That is the completely upside-down world we are now living in. Number 2. Gas stations. The second spot on this list where you should never be unarmed is the gas station. Now, on the surface, it feels like a harmless, everyday errand. You pull up, you slide your card, maybe you run inside for a drink, and you're gone in 3 minutes. But that is exactly the problem. Every single stop at the pump follows the exact same predictable script, and criminals thrive on that routine. They know you're distracted. You're watching the fuel gauge tick up. You're scrolling through your phone. You're dealing with a kid in the back seat. They also know you have cash, or at least a credit card, on you, and you're standing next to a running vehicle that's ready to go. The late hours make this infinitely worse. Once that clock passes 10 p.m., a gas station becomes one of the highest risk places you can be. You've got poor lighting at the pumps, no crowds around to act as witnesses, and usually just one single clerk behind bulletproof glass. That is a perfect recipe for an ambush. I've watched the security footage time and time again. Someone pulls up, steps out to fuel their car, and before they've even got the nozzle in the tank, two attackers rush in from the shadows. One is flashing a pistol, the other is snatching the keys or the wallet. It's over in seconds. That is not paranoia, folks. That is the tactical reality. And in those few seconds, the only thing that matters is whether you are able to respond to that threat. By the time you realize just how exposed you are, it's already too late to call 911. You are the target, and the attack is already in motion. That is precisely when you'll wish you had a sidearm within immediate reach. Number 3. Public venues and soft targets. And this doesn't just apply to gas stations. Any public space where people get comfortable and stop paying attention is a soft target just waiting to be hit. Think about it. Movie theaters, music venues, sporting events, even a local fair. What do they all have in common? Big crowds, very few exits, and a population that is completely disengaged from their surroundings and not expecting violence. That's exactly why attackers choose them. There's no warning. There's no real pattern. One week it's someone lashing out over some personal grudge. The next it's some ideological sicko trying to make a statement. Either way, the result is identical. Absolute chaos, screaming, and blind panic. People stampede toward the exits, they duck behind seats, or they just drop to the ground, praying to survive. Most people freeze in those moments. It's a normal human reaction. But that small handful of men and women, the ones who carry, they are the only ones who can push back. They are the ones who can draw a hard line between the panic and the attacker. A theater is dark. A concert is deafeningly loud. Your attention is locked on the show. That's what makes those places so vulnerable. You can't see trouble coming, and once it starts, there is almost nowhere to go. I will tell you right now, I will never walk into a public venue like that unarmed. Not because I'm looking for a fight, but because my family deserves a protector who isn't going to be caught completely flat-footed. Number 4. Stores, malls, and restaurants. And since we're on the topic of everyday places that people assume are safe, let's be blunt about stores, restaurants, and shopping malls. We go to these spots every single day. We treat them like nothing bad could ever happen there. But if you have been paying even the slightest bit of attention to the news, you know better. Shopping centers and food courts have become some of the most common stages for mass attacks in recent memory. And again, I'm not talking about petty shoplifting. I am talking about armed killers walking right through the front door and opening fire on innocent people. Customers dive behind clothing racks. Parents are shoving their kids under tables. Employees are barricading themselves in stockrooms. This is not a rare event anymore. This is the world we live in now. Whether the motive is ideology, a personal grudge, or just someone who has completely snapped it, doesn't matter when you're caught in the middle of it. The result is always the same. Chaos, fear, people scrambling, and that desperate, helpless hope that someone, anyone, nearby can stop it. I've read the after-action accounts where victims said they didn't even know what was happening until it was too late. They thought the sound was fireworks. They thought a speaker blew out. That is how fast and how disorienting these attacks are. You don't get 5 minutes of warning. You get seconds. And in those seconds, whether or not you are carrying could mean the difference between walking out of that mall or never getting up again. And don't think this is just limited to big box stores. Even restaurants, places where families are sitting down for a meal, have become targets. 1 second you're reaching for the salt. The next you're watching strangers dive under tables for cover. That is the new reality. No public space is too ordinary to be dangerous. If you're eating out, shopping for groceries, or taking your kids to the mall, you must accept that this risk exists, and you must be prepared for it. Number 5. Remote and wilderness areas. But the threat doesn't just end when you leave the city streets. In fact, when you step into the wilderness, the risks can be even more deceptive. The woods, they might feel like the safest place in America. There's no crowds, no sirens, just the sound of the wind. But you have to understand, isolation does not equal safety. Isolation means that if something does happen, help is hours, or maybe even days, away. Now look, sure, there are wild animals. Bears, mountain lions, feral dog packs in some regions, those are all legitimate threats. But honestly, what I worry about most out there is other people. Remote areas have become ideal hiding places for drug operations, illegal grows, and just individuals who really don't want to be found. Out there are no streetlights. There are no neighbors. There is no one to hear you yell. If someone with bad intentions approaches you in the middle of nowhere, you don't have time to dial 911. And even if you did, chances are you don't have a signal anyway. The only backup you have is what's on your hip and how prepared you are to use it. A quiet hike with your family, a solo fishing trip, an off-grid camping weekend. These are incredible grounding experiences. But the wrong encounter with the wrong person can turn that peace into a nightmare in an instant. In that moment, being armed isn't just a precaution, it's survival. Look, carrying a firearm isn't just about reacting to danger, it's a mindset. It's about choosing to move through the world with clarity. It's not about fear. It's not about paranoia. It's about readiness. Because in a country where threats can, and do, appear anywhere, being prepared isn't extreme. It's just responsible. So carry legally, carry responsibly, know your state and local laws inside and out. Preparation always includes discipline, wherever you are, whether it's on city streets, in store aisles, at a crowded concert, or on a quiet trail. Walk with purpose, carry with purpose, and live with purpose. Thanks for being here today. If you got something out of this, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Stay sharp, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.